from Let's Recover. So today we have a very special guest called Siva. And he's not the real Siva, it's just his name. So Siva is going to talk to us today about being a young person in recovery. He came in at a really young age, considering at 26 years old. So usually the rest of us, we come in after like way more years of destruction. So Siva is going to talk to us about what it's like being a young person in recovery and some of the challenges that he faces. Over to you, Siva.
Yeah, hi Man, thank you for the introduction. So my name is Siva and I'm in recovery. I've been clean for coming to 3 years this year. Um, so I found recovery when I was 26. I'm turning 30 this year. So I found recovery or like such things that there was such thing called recovery when I was 26 because my lifestyle back then and my partying days and everything, I thought that this was going to be me throughout my whole life. So and then when I hit my rock bottom, I was sent to an institution, and that's when the doors for recovery opened up to me. But I was very young. I was 26. It was a 2-week program, and I was very stubborn. So I decided to do it my way again, and I went back to using and drinking and abusing myself again, and it took me another year to really really like hit it hard, and then I tried again, and you know when I was turning 27, that was when I actually woke up and decided to try recovery. And you know when I came into like meetings and to a drop-in center, everybody was like in their 50s, and I felt very young. I felt like a child, like I was like I don't belong here, and there were not many people around my age group, and it was very difficult. It was very difficult for me to even adapt to how they are talking, because some of them have been in the system for a while, and the way they talk is very different. And they will be like, oh, you've never been to jail before, and they'll be like, you still can, you still got a long life ahead of you. And my mind would tell me that, oh, that means I can play, I still can party, and I can still do things, because I'm not like those people. I never found that sense of belonging. And then after a while, there were some people who were very supportive, and they guide me, and then they were like envious of me. They're like, wow, if only I was your age. and and then you know uh, if sorry, I'm gonna like, yeah, if I ramble on, then you need to stop me. and and so going back, I just did what I had to do, because I had nothing. I had no one. Most of my friends were afraid of me. They were like pushing me away, and I was very lonely. And that's why I would go to drinking or using, just to fill that void for me. And I kind of found, so when I went to meetings, and when I started being open-minded, like I didn't look at the age. I didn't look about, oh, that person's 55 or 60 or whatsoever. I was like, okay, I'm here for myself. I need to do something different. I need to find that change within me. And when I had no job. I had no experience in, I was previously from the nightlife, so I had no experience in um being a normal quiet boy. I was very party going every day. I'm at party areas, and suddenly to have this whole personality change, I felt very out of my own skin. I didn't feel very comfortable, but I know that I cannot go back to that lifestyle anymore. It's going to lead me to death, because um I had a lot of medical complications due to abusing myself over the years, and they were healing over time, and I could feel the change. I would attend groups and everything, and suddenly someone would just come up to me and be like, oh, well, you look very fresh today, or you look very healthier today. And I'm like, but I didn't feel it, because I just felt like I was just that same old boring person. I was becoming a square. And and then you know when I like you know when I started to be open-minded, I started to listen to people. And there were even people coming up to me and then telling me, "Are you sure you belong here? You look so good. You look so good, boy." And when I share with them my story of how like bad I was, like how manipulative I was, and then they would be like, "Okay, you need to stick with us, because if not, you end up like me." And eventually those differences of like, oh, that person's older than me, I can have more time to have fun, abuse myself, and then maybe I can come back into this recovery for maybe when I'm 40 or something. But as I listened to more of the experience, and my mind started to slowly open up, I actually realized that what they were telling me was, if only I was your age when I came into recovery, then I wouldn't have to go through all this pain. So instead of you going through the pain yourself, why not use our experience and learn from it? So I don't have to go to prison. I don't have to get drunk and lose everything, and get caught for illicit stuff. And that's when I start to like make their mistakes my mistakes too, and try to find that sense of belonging. But obviously there were still challenges. There were people still like, you're still young lah, you still got a lot of, you have a lot of things you need to learn and everything. And like everywhere I go, there'll always be good and bad. So I just decided to focus on the good. I didn't want to let those negative comments push me down, because I know that I belong here. I know that I have the personality of someone with the disease of addiction. So when I think about something, even if it's alcohol or substance or whatsoever, even if it's food or gaming and everything, I tend to have that obsessive behavior. So you know over the years, while I've been building up this new way of life, I slowly build up my network. And I'm now no more in the nightlife. I'm now no longer in no longer in participations of illicit activities. And I'm no longer um I, I have a lot of control of myself now. I'm no longer just acting on impulse, or just going out and just finding my next fix, or stealing from someone, or manipulating someone. I try to live honestly now. And when and I have people that I can call, and I have people that can support me. And
I always find it quite interesting when people come in at their 20s, because in their 20s, when I was in my 20s, I'm like completely insensible. And, and everybody around you is also having the same lifestyle, right? Everyone is partying and drinking and so on. So it's quite incredible for me to see somebody who is in their 20s being in recovery, because being in recovery means you can't drink, you can't smoke, you don't go, you have to change your lifestyle so much. What about your friends? I mean, do you still have the same friends, or how do they react to that?
that's a that's a very good question. So before I came into recovery, I had no friends, nothing, no one, because everybody was very angry that I was hurting my mom, and I was uh being very rash, and I was always isolating myself. And people walked out of my life. They would be like, okay, you know what, we can't hang out with you anymore. And these were friends that actually know me for more than 10 years.
Mm.
So it was very painful. And at that time, when how I cope with pain was use more, drink more, and abuse myself. But um, you know, after a while, I went to get clean again. And a couple of months passed. I was doing my own recovery. No one from my past life contacted me, and I was making new friends. Learning how to live this way of life. And then a few of my friends called me back, those who have been my friends since like I was like 14, 15. And they were like, hey, let's meet up. And the challenge there was, like, I used to be this hardcore party goer, where like, and then when they meet me, there was like a bottle of whiskey. And I was like, I think in my first few months of recovery. And I was like, and I straight away, I draw that boundary. I was like, I'm very glad and grateful that you guys called me, because we've known each other for more than a decade. But you know, I'm trying to not drink anymore, and like I don't want to drink anymore, and I just like, like we made amends there. There were a lot of hugging, there was a lot of crying, and they were like very happy to see me. And but I told them, like, if you all offer me a glass of whiskey or whatsoever, I'm going home, because I cannot like let that monster come out again. And these were friends who actually seen me become a monster. So slowly, the ones that really were, you know who cared for me and were worried for me, they didn't contact me directly, but they were actually checking up on me via my mom. They were like, hey, how is Siva, okay? And after they see that I've been a bit stabilized, and then slowly the good ones came back, and those that were, mainly just meeting me because, like, for to take advantage of me, or to see whether they can, party with me, they eventually just disappeared. It's more of whether I wanted to go and find them, but I'm glad that none of them did lah.
I think a lot of people, right, in my experience, I have a friend who just said that to me. A lot of people drink to feel a sense of belonging, like to belong to a group of people, to have friends, and they find it very difficult to stop because they feel like if they stop, then they don't have friends because that's their
Mhm.
lifestyle. What do you say to someone who says that?
Okay, in my own experience, initially, yes, that was how I felt, to get that sense of camaraderie, where,
Right.
we drink together, and then after a while, my motive of drinking was just to get drunk. It was, and calling my friends was just an excuse to, you know, um, share a bottle, but I'm finishing like almost three quarter of it, you know, and eventually it was like, you know what, I'm just going to be at the bar during lunchtime and then leave at midnight. That was how I was. And it no longer became a social thing, but more of like the bottle was my friend. And
Mm.
if my real life friends came, I felt like they were bothering me because they were, taking me away from my one true friend.
Right,
And
right,
yeah.
right, right. So it became. I mean, it's quite tricky though to know when it is an excuse to belong or that it actually became
Yes.
the actually that's what I want. I want to drink. It's not about
Mm,
friends.
yeah.
Yeah.
You- I had
So
I had to do a lot of soul searching and actually reflect back on my drinking days, because when I was young, like, when I'm in recovery, and then people were like, wow, so many kids your age still partying and everything, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I can become one of those people. Maybe I had like a bad spree, like I wasn't working, and then maybe that's why I was just hitting the bottle too much. But after I did some soul searching, and I realized that no, it's actually my motive for drinking was always to get high. It was no longer just cheers and catch up.
mm,
I'll use that as um like pretense, but it's always my backup motive was always to get high lah. So it will eventually shift for me
so
to.
another question I think would be quite interesting is parents of young people who have this lifestyle, right? So usually when we do the hotline for help, usually it's the parents that call in and their children are like in their teens, in their early 20s, and they're having this problem of like just and seeing your child destroy themselves is very painful. So what would you say is the best way for parents to deal with their a young alcoholic or addict children? I mean, did your parents help you? I mean, how did they react?
The first time when my mom suspected, because she found a dirty spoon in my room, but it was actually like I was eating ice cream and I didn't clear the spoon lah. So I was like, oh damn. But after a while, when she, and because like for my own experience, like my mom used to be from a kampong where there were a lot of addicts, and so she knows how drugs look like actually. She used to hang out with drug addicts and alcoholics, and like my family also has history of addicts and alcoholics. So when the first time when I went crazy, I would say, because I was being I was going through psychosis and everything. She didn't know what to do, and they wanted to call the cops on me because the CMB lah, like to help me. But thankfully, I have a cousin who's a psychologist that actually recommended me to go to one of the local institutions for to check in myself. And but that, honestly, that was by the grace of God, because if not, I would have been into the system. And and um and after that, then we started to do counseling together. But like what I said previously, when I when I wanted to test my own system, I was still lying to my counselors, and I wasn't being very upfront about it. I was still using, and I was trying to fake it. But they were worried. They were worried, they were very sad, and that's why some of my friends actually walked away, because they didn't care that I was harming myself. But when it came to a point where I was harming my family, then that's where they were like they drew the line, and they're like, you can't do this, you need to wake up. And yeah.
What can a parent do? I mean, do you think that is it to what is the best way for the parent to leave the kid alone or to intervene, or what what can they do?
I would say, like, for myself, when I decided to get clean again, I was given a choice. It was either, like, my sister gave me a choice, and it's a very simple choice. It was either you go and try to get clean through the rehab center again, or we're gonna call the cops on you.
Right.
And this was like, they already knew I was using, and I was messing with the system. But for someone where there may be suspicions or what, it's best to um to I would say just reach out to a healthcare professional, and get a test to see whether is that person abusing anything, or and seek
Like a blood test,
professional help.
the
Yes.
blood urine test, right? Right.
Yeah, because
But
that's like the most accurate.
it sounds like it was like a ultimatum, right? They give you an ultimatum.
Yeah, I hated my sister for a while, because I had nothing, and then like my substance and my alcohol was my best friend. So when you give me the ultimatum, I was like, my walk mentality was like, oh, I can't believe you're doing that to me. But after a while, I realized that I'm grateful that they actually did that, because it kind of helped me go to where I was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think in my experience, a lot of people who have babied the addict, babied the alcoholic, they end up with the alcoholic's death.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very strange because of course, you feel bad that you care about someone, you don't want to see them destroy themselves. But the more you care, the more you take care of them, the more they carry on because they don't have to change. It's a very strange thing that we always say, you gotta let them go. You know.
Yeah. And even in my experience also, it was like, when my whole family was trying to baby me through, like what you just said, baby me through, right? My addict mind just straight away went into like a manipulative mentality, where, okay, at least I can still pull some strings, and I can still get my way, just play the pity card, act a bit sad, and then as long as they're giving me money, and then they're giving me food,
Right.
uh I don't care. It's
Right.
all, it was very cold. And
Mm, 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 mm.
so sometimes, after they gave me the ultimatum, and they're like, you know what, like either this, or you're just gonna go into jail. And then I'm like, oh, okay, like they're not calling for my nonsense anymore. So
Right.
I had to do something about it.
Right, right. So it's quite interesting, right? It's like the way to help is to let them go,
Mm.
actually. You know, it's very interesting. Okay, so I think we'll end here. Thank you so much for your little snippets of advice.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.